Center. I am Josh Fenton, CEO of GoLocal. This is Stephen Pryor. He is the Secretary of the World, I believe is the term.
Commerce. That's about it.
Rhode Island Commerce.
Good to be with you, Josh.
Thanks. Appreciate you coming in. I know it's been a busy day.
It really has. Great day.
And it's a snowy day.
Yes,
we
it
have
is.
a whopping 2 inches of snow.
Do I get bonus points for coming into the studio nonetheless?
Bonus points for coming in on a snowy day.
Good.
Absolutely, positively. Let's jump into it. Last week we launched a little bit of an investigation into the condition of the Superman building. I think it surprised all of us and many people in the public on what the condition of the exterior of the building. I think everybody had seen the interior in some detail, but it's really showing, and significantly greater than it was 2-3 years ago, some real wear. Obviously, it's our tallest building. It's to some degree iconic, depending on who you want to talk to.
Yeah, no, I think that's real.
And you know, now we're in a situation of concern about the integrity of the building, I think is fair to say. What's the newest on this?
Well, first of all, I've talked to the building owner about it, and thanks to the prompt of your investigation, we renewed a conversation that we have had in the past, making sure that he's doing his job, that his team is doing its professional duty, and they are expressing, as they have to GoLocal, that on an annual basis, there's a proper inspection of the facade. They do a thorough inspection, and they secure anything that's loose. So any of the pockmarks you see, even if unsightly, ought to be secured, ought to be safe. The annual inspection occurs every year during the summer months. The property owner assures me that that has been happening. There's been no retreat from or variance from that plan. But I think what you're also asking is what's happening with that building. That building matters for Rhode Island. So to respond to that, I'm pleased that on a continuing basis there are new aspirants for that building. There are potential end users, and there are potential partners for the redevelopment of that building. So I'd say, Josh, I've commented on this subject a number of times in your presence, and just even thinking about that as, you know, what's the rhythm of this? I'd say on a quarterly basis, at a minimum, there's a new idea, a new potential end user, a new partner that is in conversations in a serious way about that building. Now, it is in to some degree a numbers game in that you need to make sure that you're keeping the flow going, and we're keeping the flow going.
Right.
And there are some new prospects that have been in discussion in this quarter. So more to come, hopefully, in the future. But I remain optimistic that because the floor plates at the base are substantial and are well suited to modern commercial uses, and the top is, I think, well suited to residential conversion or perhaps hotel conversion, there will be a project that gets done.
Let me go back to the condition of the building.
Please.
I think the one surprise is that in the crevices and chipping that's taking place on the exterior of the building, you're now seeing the metal rods that hold the limestone in place. And, you know, engineers have said, listen, that's a real worrisome because that exposure, they expand, they contract, they rust, has the potential of water getting in there, and the way limestone is applied to the, I guess, granite subsurface, that it really has the potential to start to degrade the integrity of that facade. We've taken pictures of those teams inspecting and doing repair on the building, and when you compare the two, that didn't happen 2.5 years ago. You didn't see those. You saw the corners and things like that. Is the state now ready to sort of start to up the inspection process? And I know it's more of a little bit of a more municipal, but this may be beyond Providence's municipal inspection process to be able to make sure that we're not in a situation that somebody walking down the street one day is in some level of peril.
Based upon your prompt, we will ask the property owner anew. What the ownership team has expressed to us is that these conditions are caused by things like water infiltration to the facade.
Right.
Part of what the Bank of America lawsuit that was settled was focused upon was this very condition. The fact that Bank of America there was an allegation, I can't say one way or the other,
right,
but had negligently or at least inadequately cared for the
Maintained
facade.
for the building, yeah.
And what we are told, it is a municipal issue, so we in the Commerce Division are hearing this as a report from the developer, not in an official capacity as the municipality. But what we've been told is that that has been remedied and that there's an annual inspection to ensure that, again, these pockmarks are, if there is need for repaired. So we'll be happy to ask again.
And it makes it
I
more,
think it merits asking
and it makes the
again.
redevelopment just more complicated. I mean, you know, if there's good information on what the cost of the interior would be. There's been enough engineering reports. The developer himself did a significant analysis and appraisal back in 2014, and that number from Scotty and Associates was $60 to $100 million to redevelop it. It's 4 years plus later. It's only more complex now. God bless you. That's not an easy task. Let's leave Superman, go over to some of the other news today, obviously. GoLocal covered it live. Kate Nagel was over there. Kind of very good news of Infosys, which might be your best project company coming in because of how it got recruited.
Yes.
It was just dogged determination by a staffer over at Commerce. Everybody who complains about state workers or quasi-state workers and how they approach things, one person literally just dogged this company until they agreed to take a look at Providence, Rhode Island.
That's exactly right. Lynn Rakowski, who's a key member of our Commerce Business Development team. By the way, when she landed the Infosys deal, we gave her a promotion, and she merited that.
And a donut? Did she get a donut?
That too. That too. She's a member of the Business Development team. That saying business development team is a new that's a new phenomenon in Rhode Island.
Absolutely.
We didn't have a team that proactively was reaching out to businesses
more
and making
responsive,
known the merits of Rhode Island, the livability of this place, the gorgeous landscape of Rhode Island, the universities that are present, and look at what has resulted from this. This really is a gem of a new arrival. It's a partnership with RISD. The Rhode Island School of Design is the premier design school in the country. We're one of the premier design destinations for talent in the country. This company is recognizing that and making Rhode Island the design and innovation hub for the United States. They're pledging 500 jobs. Look, there may be more in the future if this succeeds. We all know there are a lot of variables in the corporate world, but that would be enormously exciting. There was a new partnership announced today, equally important, with the Community College of Rhode Island. CCRI is partnering with Infosys in a digital hub to help prepare talent through the community college system for Infosys. So Rhode Islanders of every walk of life with different levels of preparedness and background for these kinds of jobs will be able to aspire for and seek jobs with Infosys. Infosys is a global technology giant, and it's a consultancy in multiple fields. They're looking to refine and enhance their expertise in design, and they're coming to Rhode Island. Really, really exciting. By the way, it's the third major corporate entity going to the Projo building.
Yeah.
So as the traditional press contract, there are certain things that result and are advantageous.
Rajiv was on one day, and I think he said it on the air, said he can't wait for the Projo to leave the building because they need the space at Virgin Pulse.
Rajiv is with Virgin Pulse.
Yeah.
They located their national global corporate headquarters here in Rhode Island. GE Digital, of course, and now Infosys. We're really excited by it. And these are revenue positive. It's always worth pointing out. We expect net of the incentives that we invest in this project to see $18 million back to the state in state revenue over the next 12 years. So it's really exciting.
All of these aren't home runs, and I think everybody recognizes it. We were in a story about Agoda who packed up and left, and their business model changed. That travel industry gets complicated.
Yes.
GE obviously was one that was hopeful. I think Jack Reed said on kickoff day, might be 400 or 500 jobs. We're very consistent at 50-something jobs in that process.
Well, no one was saying that would happen overnight.
Yeah.
I mean, he was talking about over the very long term, even at that moment in time with the highest enthusiasm.
Right.
But you're right. The point you're making is you need to make multiple bets.
That's right. Absolutely.
There have been 30 companies that have decided to land or expand here in the past 3 years alone. And that is your point, is that you do have to have a portfolio of different companies.
Absolutely.
With different client bases, different talent pipelines, different prospects for success. That way, you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. Not that any state would ever put all their eggs in one basket and place one big bet on a pre-revenue company or anything, but we've learned our lesson. So some companies will stumble, but I would say that, let me make generic GE and say a technology company like GE.
Right.
They're in the vicinity of 50 jobs, by the way. That was their first threshold. We're glad that they met it. They're, by all accounts,
I think it was 100.
That was their first threshold, was 50.
But they were supposed to be at 100 by now.
Their first threshold they met at 50 doesn't negate that. And what I'm saying is that, by all accounts, the Providence office of theirs is healthy in the midst of a lot of volatility in that company globally.
100%.
So could someday that number grow? Not saying tomorrow. Yes. So that's why we do this.
Listen,
and
by the way, at least we're not Boston. They were counting on 1,200 high-paying jobs, and they're
exactly.
Are they at 50?
I don't know what they're at.
I don't know the number.
Yeah.
All this sparks. We have a new feature running on Mondays about sort of the cheat sheet. What's going on in business?
Yes,
and
I saw
economy.
that. Very nice.
And one of them, this issue, and Darrell West down at Brookings talks about it all the time. The influence of AI and how quickly it's going to emerge. Canadian mining trucking company who's laying off 400 workers.
Right.
On these giant machinery, I mean, humongous, bigger than a house, being replaced by 150 autonomous vehicles. The idea of that being an early adoption of autonomous vehicles is perplexing, right? You would think it would be little cars on little streets in Florida. This is going to happen fast, and commerce and the economy and Rhode Islanders are going to need to be ready for it.
That's right. Absolutely true. There is no way to overstate the potential disruption of automation, autonomous vehicles, and other moves in that direction. I've had the ability to participate in a few national dialogues and some global ones about these trends. One of the things that is really important is that we continue to invest in job training. And I say that not just in the generic sense. I think our programs are good and are working and we need to do more, but also it's going to be the role not just of companies who have their own micro-universes that they have to mind, but also of government to think about how to stitch these problems together. What I mean is someone who is currently a data entry technician may be utterly replaced by AI, where the reading of material conversion into data sets may not require any human beings, but some intermediate level of analysis may be fully within that professional's capability. With a little bit of training, they can shift to another job title. And there are many better examples than that, but that would be one. So we need to get in that business even more. Real Jobs Rhode Island is a perfect example of a sector-based approach where business tells us what kinds of upskilling is necessary for employees. And I think, frankly, more than ever, Rhode Island Promise, where we have free community college, and On to Rick with free Rhode Island college tuition, where all of our young people, and for that matter, people throughout Rhode Island, can get reskilled and be ready. It's just so profoundly important. But it is a commerce priority. It's not just an education priority.
But we just saw it with the financials being disclosed by Hasbro. Toys R Us was going out of business for 2-3 years. It seemed to still catch Hasbro a little bit off guard of what the total implications of it. This stuff is happening so quickly.
Very quickly.
Do you get a sense of the urgency? Because I certainly don't. We talk to a lot of businesses every week of where the puck is going. I think people have a sense of where the puck is, but we're going to see the same disruption that's upset retail over the past couple of years hit numerous industries, from accounting, where mid-level accountants cannot fill out boxes as well as AI can. And those things are going to absolutely decimate some professions.
It's all going digital. I mean, the bottom line is, the common theme is it's all going digital. And the positive Rhode Island point is that we have an inflow of companies that are predominantly digital or have business units that are digital, Infosys being the latest and greatest example, but multiple others in this trend of 30 businesses that have landed and expanded or are in the process of doing so. And what I would say about it, that's why it's so important that look at what Infosys is debuting today. A partnership with RISD around our design expertise, and a partnership with CCRI where what they're going to do, they call it the Deal Center, and it's the digital I don't know exactly what it is, but it's their deal center, right? And what they're doing is they're training people for the digital future, and these are folks who are earning 2-year degrees. They might go on to 4-year degrees. They might not, and they might be ready for the workforce. That's what it's going to take to be ready for all of these disruptions, which I agree with you are happening at a pace that is astounding.
Yesterday we had on Spratel, one of the most innovative companies in Rhode Island, doing wildly innovating things, homegrown. Can we, you guys have been good to them, I think, both with Innovation Voucher and some other funding.
SBIR, some others.
Right.
Yes.
One thing we've learned is when a out-of-state company packs up and leaves, it's not always the best thing, and they're driven by their interests down in North Carolina at Bank of America. We've got to fuel more, and it's an issue of leadership here across business and philanthropy and all those things. How do we, turn up the turbochargers on fueling Rhode Island business growth and having CEOs live here and kids go to school here and care about the community and make donations to improve the community?
That's exactly what it's about.
Yeah.
So let's start with how do we create the commerce ecosystem, and let's talk a little bit about quality of life.
Please.
But let's start with commerce ecosystem. So first of all, you mentioned the innovation vouchers. Innovation vouchers are a way to give to often a smaller emerging company a voucher to work with one of Rhode Island's institutions. If you're a manufacturer, you can do the R&D internal, and to take your product to the next levels. That's Sproutel's products are partially a result of that and their genius and their inspiration. So what else are we doing? Let me give you another example of one of those, which I think explains how we're developing micro ecosystems in Rhode Island. Navitec Textiles, which in South Kingstown is putting together and producing inflatable, floatable devices and products. So it might be for military applications, it might be for vessels, inflatable vessels, it might be for any other number
Hardy
of things.
boats in Narragansett Bay?
Could be.
Excellent.
So, yesterday, with thanks to United States Senator Whitehouse, there was a forum with the entire congressional delegation at URI where there's major partnerships around textiles. Navitec was featured, but they work with, who do they get supplies from in their supply chain? They work with Providence Yarn on the fiber that's integral to their floating device or vessel. And they go to the Cooley Group, both Rhode Island companies.
Absolutely.
The Cooley Group for the finish,
Yeah.
for the skin of the device. So all this to say, Navitec is a recipient of an innovation voucher. It helps them conceive new products which has a multiplier effect in terms of how it affects the ecosystem in Rhode Island. So we have to keep stitching these companies together with our universities like URI, which is the research partner for Navitec, help to pay the bill in a small way that leverages much more private capital that helps create this supply chain. But let me say something else. How do we continue to grow companies through their own internal R&D activities? Sometimes it's just that they don't have the dollars to pay for it. Many other states have a more significant R&D tax credit. Whatever people think of tax credits in the tax code, one of the most profoundly important is an R&D tax credit. At the federal level, there is one. Most states replicate it. In Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, and beyond, their R&D tax credit as applies to small emerging companies is more generous
than Rhode Island.
So in the governor's proposed budget before the General Assembly right now, she aims to turn ours into the best, most potent R&D tax credit for early stage companies in the Northeast. It aims to supercharge the tax credit with a tradable credit that goes up to $250,000 per company. And without getting into a lot of detail, I think it's very important that, it ends up being $1.3 million in revenue that would be adopted for this purpose in the budget. Not any $1 million amount is significant, but not going to totally disrupt the budget. That little bit of investment will make a big difference in helping these small enterprises grow. Very, very important. But to throw in a last bit of an answer, we have to keep investing in quality of life. That's why the parks investments that the governor envisions are so important. And back to education, we've got to keep investing in reforming and improving K-12 education. Adding pre-K is extremely important because all the way through the system we'll see the benefits. And higher ed like Rhode Island promised.
I mean, since the RICAS scores came out, which really ended the debate and blew out all the excuses. This wasn't a different test. It wasn't this. It wasn't that. There's been, I think, the beginning of a movement to try and improve K through 12. And as good as Rhode Island Promise may be, it's clear that the vast majority of the students are not ready to even complete junior college. More of them left than stayed.
But these are related points.
Absolutely, 100%. If they're higher skilled, if they're better educated going in, then the costs drop because you're keeping them in and you're training them quicker, you're educating them quicker, and they can move on to URI for 4 years or Rhode Island College or Brown or wherever they want to go.
Let me just inject one point, though?
Please.
Don't lose your point, but you're the host, for goodness sake. But inject one point. I also think it's important.
I always think of co-host when you're on.
It's also profoundly important that young people looking over the horizon to college think to themselves, I can get there.
Right.
And one of the things that Rhode Island Promise does that's an intangible but extremely important is it tells them if you buckle down and do well in your K-12 schools, you can make it to college. And I think that can affect the system. And then can it incentivize the K-12 traditional public school system to gear up and help students aim for the college-bound kinds of skills that they need? You get the idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's part of a whole. It's part of a whole.
When you live in Johnston, you find out that half the students performed as well as those in Fall River. That's a worrisome.
Yes,
Let me go on to state procurement. I think we've talked about this once upon a time, but University of Oklahoma State did a study of states that give benefits to their home state companies in state procurement, and 44 out of the 50 states do. Rhode Island does not. Why doesn't Rhode Island? It seems like it would help the ecosystem.
Well, this is very important. We in essence do. First of all, there's an initiative under Governor Raimondo debuted about a year ago called Supply RI. And what we're trying to do is help private companies.
But that's private companies.
No, let me transition to that. Including Infosys, by the way, which has signed up for Supply RI. And among the things they're going to do is help work with Rhode Island companies. In announcing that, the Department of Administration under Governor Raimondo also stated that they would gear up to do more in the way of Rhode Island contractors within the existing state procurement system. It has to be done properly within the right parameters, within the rules.
44 other states have figured out. But they give a bonus.
But they're gearing up.
If you live in Rhode Island, you get 5 percentage points.
It's a tiebreaker.
Absolutely.
And under Director Mike DBA's, the
seems
Department
like
of Administration is working on that too.
That seems like a Raimondo
they
natural.
They are heavily working. They should speak for themselves, but they are working on it in tandem with the Supply RI effort.
What we've seen is Massachusetts' economy explode over the past couple decades. I think most people look to it and say, okay, higher education, MIT, Harvard, etc., but really that it's the K through 12 functionality. And listen, we have Central Falls, they have Fall River. We have Pawtucket, they have Lowell. I mean, it's not, everything is not rosy in Massachusetts and everything is not rosy in Rhode Island. How do we get more urgency in that? I mean, Neil Steinberg's been on talking about what the Rhode Island Foundation's doing. Gary Sass comes on every week, rings the bell about it. I don't know, we've probably had 10 people talking about the need for urgency of it. Your role as the titular head of economic development in the state, how much can you, really advocate for real energy, real motion, real improvement
around our schools? Well, I would say I'll own that and broaden it at the same time.
And by the way, you ran schools in Connecticut.
It is true.
So could we save some money and merge, with Wagner leaving, merge RIDE over into Commerce?
Now listen, if we're gonna allow the empire to expand, the Commerce empire to expand, we want the National Guard too, because it'll make everything we do have that much more oomph. We need the forcefulness of that.
That's right. Those cool helicopters.
In all seriousness, I think the private sector has an enormous role in ensuring that reforms take place and that they stick. That's part of the storyline in Massachusetts and frankly was in Connecticut and is really important now. The private sector has to be mindful of public school teachers and administrators and the fact that they are the professionals who know what to do, but still there are ways that the private sector can engage that are enormously constructive. And what I'd point to is, we help to encourage the CEOs of Rhode Island to form the Partnership for Rhode Island.
Right.
When the Raimondo administration began, there was no organization statewide of the topmost executives
right.
who could get together and talk about issues that were important to business, but also about civic engagement and how to improve Rhode Island for all of us. There are chambers of commerce that are excellent, but that's different. So all this to say, the Partnership for Rhode Island formed, and bless them, one of the things that our top CEOs did is they supported the bond for school construction, which is extremely important because our young people deserve learning environments that are state-of-the-art and that are safe and that are conducive to learning. It sounds obvious, but frankly, Rhode Island had underinvested for, you could call it a generation.
Let's keep going.
So that's the right approach, and that can be carried through a broader school improvement program.
Let's jump over to Hasbro.
Yes.
Hasbro's a major employer, a homegrown company, kind of the perfect, it's design, it's manufacturing, not much manufacturing left. It's now picked up really becoming a media company and an entertainment company. It's in this wild transition in and of itself.
Yes.
The last probably 6 months have been a little disruptive for them. They've stated they're looking to, I think we broke it about a year ago, to consolidate into a centralized campus, and really has the potential to be wildly exciting for everybody in Rhode Island. What's the status of that? Do you want to announce something today? Do you want to call Brian?
Of
course. We can
course.
put him on speaker.
There's no update at this time. I really do think that Hasbro should speak directly and should speak for itself as to its future. They do have a lot of plate tectonics that are volatile, that are variable for them. The reality is that you've mentioned this a couple times in the course of today's interview. The world is changing around them. They are doing a remarkable job keeping up and adapting.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, not only did Toys R Us close, that was perhaps foreseeable, depends upon who you talk to, but let's call it foreseeable. People are just not going to brick and mortar retail, even to the extent that we thought we would be at now with Walmart and with Target. They're shifting to digital at such a pace that you have to disengage from the old practices of hiring a human sales force, going out and knocking on doors, getting the shelf space that you need. All of that is disappearing. So now it's all about where you are in the Google search, optimizing your positioning on search engines and getting in front of people in that way. So that's just an example of what Hasbro especially, but many, many companies have to go through. So that's what they're focused upon at the moment. And we look forward to working with Hasbro and supporting them. They're obviously a profoundly important Rhode Island company. When they ultimately make their determination, we'll work closely with them.
Do you have any idea of a timeline on what your expectation is?
I do not. I don't think there's anything imminent, but I don't have a sense of a timeline.
A last thing, this is not your first rodeo here in Rhode Island. You rodeoed in Connecticut. Before that, you rodeoed in New Jersey. Before that, you even rodeoed in New York. But let's stop in New Jersey. You worked for Cory Booker.
I had the privilege of doing so.
He is running for the presidency of the United States. Were you classmates?
No, we weren't. We were there at the same time, but he was ahead of me.
At Oxford?
Yale Law School.
At Yale Law School.
Yes.
And did he put you in lockers? Do you guys do that at law school? What kind of guy is he, and what will he bring to the presidential race?
It was a true pleasure to work for him when he was mayor of Newark. I served as his deputy mayor for economic development. What I found about him is that he brings passion and focus. We worked on attracting new business. Under Mayor Booker, we helped to build or result in the building of the first new downtown hotel in 40 years, the first new office tower in 20 years, attracted Panasonic's North American headquarters. I won't go on to describe the litany, but a lot happened. Also, Mayor Booker placed a priority on ensuring that people of different economic backgrounds and positions would have access to the prosperity. So we helped to build affordable housing at a high pace. He doubled the production level for affordable housing in his tenure. A lot of very good things happened. He's a wonderful leader, and I wish him the best of luck.
Is he a friend?
He is.
Do you have his cell phone on your cell phone?
May I insert one last topic?
Please.
It's so important that we support Newport after what they've been through.
Absolutely.
One way for people outside of Newport to do so is to make Newport a destination. And Newport Jazz, which is always successful,
Absolutely.
but Newport Jazz just made an announcement of their new roster,
Right.
and I was taking note that Herbie Hancock
Right.
is on
I mean,
the roster,
it-
which is so exciting.
Right. It's everybody
And
this year.
There are multiple Grammy winners, 2019 Grammy winners, from the most recent round, who are actually going to debut or at least be at Newport Jazz. Tickets go on sale Tuesday, I believe, and I just feel like we
are
all
a
be
media
finding the
partner
ways.
with
Oh,
them.
fantastic.
They are just tremendous. And I will say, the last, I would say 3 or 4 years, attendance has grown and grown and grown. And it's getting to, if you're interested, I think you've got to buy your tickets early. It's one step away from being like Folk Festival,
Yes.
where it is sold out before you even get a chance to focus on it.
Yes,
but
exactly.
absolutely. This whole thing in Newport really exposes our vulnerability of our energy supply system.
Yes.
New York Times had a breakdown of all 50 states, and it showed that Rhode Island electricity is produced by natural gas, all out of state, at the level of 96%. So we are so captured by natural gas in the region for our energy production, and it creates tremendous vulnerability. Obviously, a lot's going on in renewables.
Yes.
It can't happen fast enough.
No, it can't happen fast enough. It does reveal that all the more. So we've got to move in that direction, and we've got to make sure that there's a proper investigation of what happened in this particular case. So those are the most central issues. Those are the most profoundly important. But again, let's all do our part in helping Newport, because there were businesses that suffered.
Absolutely.
There's a loan program for them that we helped to create. It's a bridge loan en route to the claims for recompense. And there is a small grant program through LISC. But if you want to find out about that, if you're a Newport business, called 521-HELP. Our helpline for small businesses, 521-HELP, can help you get there. But let's all do our part. If you haven't been to Newport Jazz recently, that's one additional way you can go. I've gone the past several years. It's phenomenal.
It is great. Stephen Pryor, thank you so much.
Thank you,
You're
Josh.
great as always. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the snow. It's got a little lull right here in downtown Providence.
And be safe out there.
Be safe. Schools, we'll see what the predictions are for tomorrow. But thanks, everybody, for tuning in to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. We'll see you back tomorrow with Laura Afonso at 3 and Kate Nagel at 4. That's an all-star lineup.
It is.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Jeff.